Dear students in grade 12, dear colleagues, good afternoon and welcome to our English seminar for today, in which we are going to talk about the exam. Well, we can say that this is part one of the exam seminar. Let me first, dear students, dear colleagues, introduce my colleagues in the studio who are going to participate in this seminar. Ms. Majid Al-Rifai, an English supervisor from Quneitra Directorate. Good afternoon, Ms. Majid.
Good afternoon.
And Ms. Wala Safir, an English supervisor in Damascus countryside. Good afternoon, Ms. Wala.
Good afternoon.
Well, dear students, as you know, we said that our today's seminar is an exam seminar, so we can say, because we have another exam seminar next month, so we can say that this is part one, and in our next seminar we can talk about part two. Part one is for the first 6 units in the book, from unit 1 to unit 6. Let me start with Ms. Majid Al-Rifai, English supervisor from Quneitra Directorate.
Yes.
Good afternoon again, Ms. Majid.
Good afternoon.
As you know, dear students, in unit 1 and unit 2, we have tenses, the present tenses and the past tenses. Of course, in today's seminar, we are going to have some revision about these two types of tenses. Let me start with you. The floor is yours, Ms. Majid. You can start. Thank you.
First of all, we are going to start with the present tenses. And let's start from the present simple, for the present simple tense.
Okay.
The present simple tense, as you know, we form it with using verb 1. And also we want to talk why do you use the present simple tense? We use it one.
The laptop, please. Thank you. Okay, Ms. Majid.
Okay, we use the present simple tense for things which are always true. Yani, it's for facts. Water boils at 100 degrees. This is an example. Also, we use the present simple tense for habits or things we do regularly. An example for this, I drink coffee every morning. And we use the present simple tense also for future events which are part of a timetable. Example, my plane leaves at 8 tonight.
Good.
Also, we use the present simple to talk about the future after certain words, as when, until, after, before, and as soon as.
We call them time clauses,
Time
of course.
clauses, yes.
So,
As an example, I will call you when I get home.
good. So these are the four uses, the main uses of the present simple for things which are always true. Habits or things we do regularly, or for future events which are part of a timetable, or to talk about the future after certain words or in time clauses. Good. Thank you.
And the keywords we use with this tense: always, usually, often, sometimes, generally, seldom, rarely, every month, every year, etc. Once, twice a year, twice a week, and
Good.
at the weekend.
Good. So these are called keywords for the present simple.
Okay.
Good. Now we can talk about, thank you, Ms. Majid, the present continuous. Ms. Wala, please.
First, the present continuous is formed using the verb to be in the present followed by the present participle. We use it for things which are happening at the moment of speaking. For example, the water is boiling now, so you can put in the pasta. The second use, temporary or new habits that aren't expected to last for a long time. For example, I'm drinking too much coffee these days because I'm so busy at work. It means I don't usually drink coffee just these days. It's not a permanent action. We use it also for annoying habits, usually with words like always, especially when we criticize the behavior of someone. It implies that the action should be changed. For example, my flatmate is always leaving the kitchen in a mess. Here I'm annoyed because
so the speaker
he's
or is annoyed.
Yeah, because
is
of
expressing
a bad behavior
yes,
of someone.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, and the last use, we use it for definite future plans. We usually add a time expression that indicates when the planned action will happen. For example, I'm meeting John after class today.
Good. Okay, thank you very much.
But we have to take a note about the state verbs. The state verbs refer to verbs that express a state or condition rather than an action. And these verbs are not normally used in the continuous form.
So we cannot use state verbs in progressive forms or
For
continuous forms.
Yes, and these the types of the state verbs are, we can say, emotional state verbs as love, hate, like, dislike. Mental state verbs, believe, suppose. We have also physical state verbs,
Or
appear.
think, believe, suppose, think. Of
Yeah,
course, we
for
have
mental
many
state.
examples. Okay,
And for the physical state verbs, you have appear, seem, look like.
good.
We have possession state verbs, have, own, belong, and sense verbs, smell, hear, and see.
Good. Good. If these verbs express something fixed, something which is always true, not as an activity. For example, we can say the cat is smelling the milk, but when we say this flower smells nice, here it is a state verb. So these verbs can be used in some cases as continuous verbs
Maybe one
or
referring
as
to
action
actions.
verbs.
If it
Action.
has a beginning and ending, yeah,
Yes.
it's okay to use
Yep.
it as an
Yep,
action
that's
verb.
true. Okay, thank you very much. Now we can talk about the present perfect, please.
Yeah, the present perfect symbol is formed by using the present form of the verb have, followed by the past participle. Mainly, it is used to connect the past to the present. We use it for unfinished actions or states or even habits that started in the past and continue to the present. Usually, we use it to say how long and we need since or for. For example, she has lived in London for 3 years. It means she is still living till now there. Another example, I've known Karen since 1994. Here it's ongoing state. Yeah, the second use, a finished action in someone's life. When the person is still alive, it's like life experience. For example, my brother has been to Mexico 3 times. It's an experience. And the last use, a finished action with a result in the present. For example, I've lost my keys. The result is that I can't get into my house now.
So here we can talk about the present perfect as follows. We can say that there are, let's say, 3 main uses.
main uses,
The first one is for unfinished actions. What do we mean by this? The action is not finished, or states or habits that started in the past and continue to the present, but they are not
Haven't
finished.
finished yet.
Usually we use it to say how long,
Yeah.
and we need since or for in this case. She has lived in London for 3 years. It means that this action started 3 years ago and continues to the past, but it is not finished yet. I have known Karen since 1994. It's the same. The second use is for finished actions in someone's life. When the person is still alive, it means life experience. When we talk about life, for example, I visited Beirut many times. I visited London. I visited Karen. My brother has been to Mexico 3 times. Many examples about this case. The last use, a finished action with a result in the present, means I've lost my keys, I can't enter the house now. I can't enter the house. There is a result in the present for an action that happened before now, right? For example, the house is clean, I have cleaned it. We have a result. Not me, of course.
So I said
It's just an
it
example.
connect the past with the present.
Okay. What else, Miss Majid, please?
Now we'll talk about the present perfect continuous. For the form, we use has or have plus been plus the verb adding to the verb ing. And for the use of the present perfect continuous, we use it for to say how long for unfinished actions which started in the past and continue to the present. I've been living in London for 2 years. And also we talk about actions which have recently stopped and have a result, which we can often see, hear, or feel in the present. I'm so tired because I've been studying all the day. I've been running, so I'm really hot.
It is a result.
It's a result.
Yes,
Yes.
there is an effect or some, we say, consequences for this action
For past
in the
action.
present. Yes. That's it. Now we can talk about the past tenses. Thank you, Miss Majid. Let's start with the past tenses. Let me first, before going on to talk about past tenses, let me clarify to our dear students that of course we can use for and since with the present perfect simple and with the present perfect continuous. There is no difference, of course, between them when we use for and since, but sometimes when we use the present perfect simple, it means that the action is completed or finished. But when we use the present perfect continuous with for or since, it means
Focus on
that it is still going on.
continuity of the
For
action.
example, I have been living in Damascus for 3 years. It means that I'm still living in Damascus. When we say I have lived in Damascus for 3 years, it doesn't mean that it's not necessarily that it means that I'm still living in Damascus. I'm talking here about a personal experience or an action that happened before now.
Maybe
To say
it's
how
finished or
long.
not.
I have lived in Homs for 5 years, I have lived in Beirut for 2 years, etc. So when we say this, we can use for and since. Now, what about the exam? Some students usually ask these questions. What if we have for and since, and which one do we use, and so on? They ask such questions. We can assure them that when we have for and since, of course, you are not going to see these two options in the four choices. We cannot use present perfect simple and present perfect continuous in the four choices because for and since can be used with both of them. So you will see one of them. Or the past perfect, it's the same. So that's it for clarification. It should be noted clearly. Now, dear students, we can go on to talk about the past tenses. I think Miss Wala is ready to talk about them,
Yeah.
please.
To form the past simple, we add ed to the irregular verbs,
Yes.
whereas the irregular verbs don't follow any specific rule. We use past simple for finished actions, states, or habits at a specific time in the past. So what matters in the past simple is that the action was completed. For example, I went to the cinema yesterday. Another example, we spent a lot of time in Japan in 2007. The action may have been in the recent past or a long time ago, but we have a specific time, a point of time in the past. A second use, a series of action in the past in the order that they happened. For example, the robber came in through the front door, picked up the woman's handbag, and stole her purse.
So here, a lot of events or actions happened one after another. So we can use the past simple to talk about that.
Yeah, with
The robber
words
came
like
in through the front door, picked up. It means then
then,
he picked up the woman's handbag, and then or finally stole her purse. So 3 events or 3 actions, one after another.
indicate the sequence of events.
Of course,
here.
for the first one, dear students, when we say I went to the cinema yesterday, of course we are talking about finished action, states, or habits in the past. We can say that we can use in a different way. We can use the past simple to say when the action happened. When the action happened. I went to the cinema yesterday. So
we
here
have
we
a
use the past
specific
simple
time
to
here,
say when the action happened. We spent a lot of time in Japan in 2007.
When.
Means when.
Yeah.
So here, I think it's very clear and so easy. Okay, let's go on.
Now we're going to talk about the past continuous tense. For the form, we use was or were plus the verb adding to the verb ing. We use the past continuous to provide the background scene to an action, usually in the past simple. We often use words like when, while, and as. Example, the robbery happened at 4 o'clock while they were sleeping. We also use the past continuous to talk about a continuing action interrupted by a sudden past action. Example, while we were getting ready to go out, the rain suddenly stopped.
Good. I have some addition. Can I add something?
Yeah, of
Of
course.
course, sometimes students again get confused when they use the past simple and the past continuous. For example, when we see yesterday, we can say it was raining yesterday, and we can say it rained yesterday. So yesterday, most students are taught in a traditional method or in a traditional way. Maybe some of the teachers don't mention this information for them. We can use yesterday with the past simple and with the past continuous. But what is the difference in these two cases? When we say it rained yesterday, I'm just informing you. I'm just informing you or telling you about something that happened yesterday or last night.
You focus on the
When we
action.
use the past continuous, I'm trying to describe something that was
In
in
progress.
progress for some time in the past.
Yeah.
It was raining heavily last night, for example. I'm here trying to describe the action, not to inform about the action. So it depends on the speaker's intention, right? So, but both of them can be used, of course.
Both.
So here, in the exam, or in all exams, it is wrong when you want to design, let's say, an exam or to write some questions for your students. Don't give them yesterday with past simple, past continuous
for the
in
past
the
simple.
choices, because both of them
Yeah.
can be used. So here is, I think, a big mistake. So let's try to think many times before we write questions for the students, and let's try to clarify for them all the situations and all in details, I mean. That's it. So here the first use, as you said, Miss Wala, right? You were talking about the past continuous. I'm sorry. To provide the background scene. As I said, the robbery happened at 4 o'clock while they were sleeping. Here there is a description of the scene, right? While the second one, an action that interrupted another action that was in progress in the past. I think these are the two main uses of the past continuous. Okay, what do we have next?
Yeah, we have the past perfect symbol. To form the past perfect symbol, we use had followed by the past participle of the main verb. This tense talks about the past in the past. We use it when we are talking about the past and want to mention something that happened earlier. This tense says that an action was completed at a time before another action happened in the past.
Good.
For example, his father was a composer, and his grandfather before him had also been a musician.
Good.
Another use with words like when, as soon as, by the time, after, to show the order of events. For example, when Mozart was born, 5 of his siblings had already died. So here, his
It means that they died before
then he was born.
Yes. 5 of his siblings had already died before he was born. Good. Again, with before,
Yeah, we can use
we
past
can
simple.
use the past simple
Yeah.
and the past perfect.
In both
Because
clauses,
again, many students think that it is wrong to use the past simple. No. When we have before or after, when we have two clauses in one sentence, dear students, and the connecting word is before or after, of course, we can use the past simple in both clauses. For example, I visited Karen before I went shopping. It's not necessary to use the past perfect. I had visited Karen before I went shopping. Why is it possible to use the past simple and the past perfect in this case? Because the word before or the word after clarifies the relation between the two actions. From the word before or the word after, we can know which action happened first and which action happened next. So there is no need to use the past perfect. We can use the past simple, and of course we can use the past perfect.
Of course.
It is correct. Both of them are correct in this case. So that's everything about the past perfect, I think. Miss Wala, thank you. Let's go on.
Now we will move to the past perfect continuous. And the form of the past perfect continuous, we use had plus been plus the verb adding to the verb ing. And here we use it for two usage we have. One, to describe an action that began and was still in progress in the past before another past action started. Example, we had been waiting for a long time when the bus finally came. Number two, we use the past perfect continuous to express a cause and effect relation between the two events in the past. Example, she was very sweetie because she had been running for nearly an hour.
It's the same as the present perfect continuous. In the
The
present
same.
perfect continuous, we have the result in the present. Here, in the past
The
perfect
past.
The result
continuous,
in
the
the
result
past.
was in the past, before another action.
Yeah.
That's it.
So close to each
She
other.
was very sweet. Why? Because she had been running for nearly an hour. It's so clear, I think.
Clear.
Thank you. Now, we have the future, dear students, the future forms. Of course, the future forms in grade 12, we can say that we have 6 forms, I think, right? Let's start, Ms. Wala.
Yeah,
Please.
there are several types of future forms in English, some of which are will plus verb 0. We call it future symbol. We use it to make predictions about what we think will happen in the future, usually based on our opinions or our past experience. For example, I think it will be extremely hot there. I'm not sure, I'm just predicting.
I'm predicting.
Yeah, something.
It may happen, it may not
It may
happen.
not. Yeah. Another use to talk about something we decide to do at the time of speaking. So we have here immediate decisions. For example, I'm hungry, I'll make a sandwich. Here we make decisions at the time as we speak. And
Suddenly, I decide something.
yeah, without thinking
Right?
before.
Someone is knocking at the door.
Yeah.
I'll
I'll
open the door.
I'll open it.
I'll
So
answer.
it is a sudden decision. We don't have any idea about it before,
Yeah.
right? We decide suddenly something, so that's why we use will.
Yeah.
Good.
Another use to make offers, promises, or suggestions. For example, don't worry, I let everyone know. It's here a promise.
As a promise.
Yeah.
Okay, I think they are very clear. Predictions, to talk about something we decide to do at the time of speaking, or to make offers, promises, or suggestions. This is everything about will and the 0 form. Now, dear students, we have another form in the future, which is the be going to and the 0 form. Okay, Ms.
It is
Majid.
the second form of the future tenses. We use be plus going to plus the verb in the 0 form. We use it to talk about events in the future we have already thought about and intend to do. Example, we're going to hire a bus. We also use the be going to plus the verb 0 to make predictions when there is a present evidence. Here we have an evidence. An example, look at the sky, it's cloudy, it's going to rain. So here we depend on the evidence to use the be going to.
So we can say, Ms. Majid, that we use be going to and the 0 form for something we have decided before we speak. I mean, I'm going to visit Majid tomorrow. It means that I have decided this
You
before
planned.
I speak.
Pre-planned.
This is one point. And the second use, it is again a prediction, but here we can use be going to and the 0 form for predictions, but in case we have an evidence, a clear evidence that this action is going to happen 100%. For example, the sky is cloudy, I think it's going to rain soon. Here, look at the sky, it is cloudy, it's going to rain soon, it's going to rain. So the speaker here is sure or certain that this action is going to happen because he has
An
an
evidence.
evidence, as you said. Thank you very much. Another form of the future,
Yeah.
Ms. Wala.
Another form is a future continuous. It's formed with the auxiliary verb will be and the present participle of the main verb. We use it to talk about an action in progress at a specific time in the future. For example, this time next week, I'll be doing my exams. It indicates that the exam will happen in the future and continue for an expected length of time.
Good. So at this time tomorrow,
Yeah.
I will be, for example, sleeping. I will be having lunch with my family, for example. I will be studying, etc. So this is the case. At this time, I will be in the middle of the action, right? I think it's very clear. We call it the future progressive or the future continuous, which is formed by will, be, and the ing form.
Present participle.
Another form which is called, Miss Majid, the future perfect. Yes, please.
The future perfect, first of all, we'll talk about the form. We use will plus have plus the verb past participle of the verb. We usually use the future perfect to talk about an action that will be completed before a future point in time. Example, I will have finished the report by Friday night. So by Friday night, I will have finished the report.
Right.
So the action here will be completed before a future point.
So we can say by the time you arrive tomorrow, I will have finished my job. I will have cleaned the house. It means that I will finish this. Be sure that the action will be completed before you arrive tomorrow. By the time you arrive, or by Friday night, by the time you arrive, etc. When we use such an expression, we have to use
indicate the future point in
perfect.
time.
Yes. When we have a future point in time, yes, we use the future perfect. Thank you very much. Another form of the future, Miss Wala.
I think we finished.
We have finished the forms now.
That's
we
it.
move
These
to,
are the four forms. I'm
Four
sorry.
forms, yeah. And we mentioned
Yes,
present simple and
but
continuous.
why? Because I said 6. Why? Because we have the present simple and the present progressive or continuous.
as used for
We
future.
can use them for the future, and I think we have
mentioned that
mentioned
before.
them at the beginning. But let me remind the students with them now. We have 2 other forms that can be used in the future in the book. Of course, they are mentioned in the book in grade 6, in unit 6, as I think. The present simple, which is the first form. For example, my plane arrives at 8 o'clock tomorrow. We are talking about a schedule, when we have a schedule or a
fixed
timetable.
arrangement.
And the future continuous. I'm starting a new job next week. It means that I'm talking here about a personal arrangement. I started this before now, and I'll do it after now. So, for example, let me say an example or tell the students about something. For John is looking for a job. Suddenly he reads an article in a newspaper, and which is an announcement. So he called the company. They said, okay, yes, can you send your CV, please? They studied his CV. After 2 days, they called him. They said, Tom, Mr. John, etc., whatsoever, okay, you can start your job next week. We have studied your CV is good, you can start your job in our company next week. I can tell you now, I'm starting a new job next week because I started it. I'm doing on something, I'm arranging for something which is personal. I started it in the past and I'll do it in the future. So this is what we call a personal arrangement. We can use the present continuous to talk about a personal arrangement in the future. So we have 6 forms in the book for the future, not 4. Okay, that's everything about the future, dear students. Now I think we have an exercise. Wala?
Yeah.
Yes.
Students must here choose the correct answer. Before we start, let's have a note. The key to choosing the correct tense depending on the time indicator, the tense of the sentence, and it's better for our student to identify the tense first. Let's start with the first one. Jane is sweating because she the floors. We have 4 choices: sweeps, swept, had swept, has been sweeping. The correct answer here is has been sweeping. Sweeping here, because sweeping here is an action which has recently stopped and has a result which we can see. She is sweating.
So we have a result
Yeah.
in the
In
present.
the present.
We can't use sweeps, of
No.
course. We can't use swept because it
Because
is
in the
past, and
past.
we have a result in the present, so it is wrong to use swept. Had swept, again, it is past perfect. We cannot use it. So the only choice here, which is correct, I think, is
Has
Has
D,
been
sweeping,
has
yeah.
been sweeping. Next one.
Yeah, a writing competition in 2006. Here we have a specific point in the past. The four choices: have won, had won, was winning. The correct answer here is one, because we are talking about, as I said, specific time in the past.
Yes.
Another one: every morning we coffee. Have, had, are having, had. We're talking here about habitual action in the present, so the correct answer is C, are having. The last one: this month I work, I'm working, would work, had been working very hard for my first exams. Here we're talking about impermanent action in the present, so the correct answer is B, I'm working.
So number 3, every morning we have coffee.
Sorry, I
Every
said,
morning we have coffee. Maybe you said are having.
Sorry, yeah,
It's not
it's
correct.
I said it's
Maybe you
habitual
were in a
action.
hurry, you didn't
Yeah.
notice this. We have every morning,
Yeah.
so that's why we are talking about a
Habitual
habit,
action, yeah.
habitual action. Every morning we have coffee,
Yeah.
or we have coffee every morning. Number 4, the last one, you said that, right? This month I very hard for my first exams. So this month I work very hard. I'm working very hard. I would work. I had been working. I think
It's
I'm
I'm
working
working.
I'm working.
is the best choice. Okay. Again, this month, this expression or this phrase can be used with all tenses.
tenses,
It is not considered a key word for the present continuous. It's okay, it can be used with the present continuous, but it is not a key word. So I'm talking to some teachers now. Don't give this month or this week as a key word.
Yeah,
It is
or-
not a key word for the present continuous. It can be used with all tenses. I will visit Karen this month. I'm visiting Karen this month. I was visiting Karen this month. I visited Karen this month. I have visited Karen. So all tenses can be used with this month or this week. So don't give this month or this week as a key word. Okay, tell your students that it can be used, but it is not a key word.
Yes.
Good. Next one, please, Miss Majid.
Number 5, while I watched, had watched, was watching TV, the phone rang. Here we have another verb, rang, and this indicates that we have to choose D, was watching, two actions, one interrupted the other. Number 6, by the time I got, have got, I'm getting to the meeting, they had made the big decisions without me. Here we have also an action in the past perfect, had made, so we have to choose B, got. Two actions, one happened before the other. Number 7, by the time you get home, I will be cleaning, will have cleaned, I'm going to clean, or will clean the house from top to bottom. The correct choice B, will have cleaned.
Good. Good. Yes, that's right. Because we have by the time you get home,
Before
we
point
have
of
to
time.
use the future perfect.
A finished action.
Will have cleaned. Good. Next one. Now, that's everything for tenses, dear students, which are mentioned in Unit 1 and Unit 2, Unit 6. Now we have 3 units. The Unit 3 is about the passive voice, Unit 4 is about
Causative.
the causative, and Unit 5 is about what?
Relative clauses.
The
Relative.
clauses.
relative clauses. That's it. Now we can talk about the passive voice, dear students. The floor is yours, Wala.
Yeah. The difference in meaning and structure between active voice and passive voice. The active voice, let's start with the active voice. the subject performs the action and the object receives the action. The structure of an active voice sentence is typically subject, verb, plus object. For example, Kate wrote the letter. Kate here is the subject who performs the action, and the letter is the object.
You mean when we have this order?
Yeah.
Again, some students get confused and they don't know whether this structure or this sentence is active or passive. How can they differentiate or distinguish between both of them, active and passive? When, dear students, you read a sentence and you have this order, the subject, then the verb, then the object. I mean, the subject is the doer of the action. When you read a sentence, again, and this sentence tells you that what the subject does, or what the subject did, or what the subject is doing or has done, etc. I mean, the subject of the sentence is the doer of the action. It means that this sentence is written in the active. It is active. Okay? When the subject is a sender of the action, not receives the action, sends the action.
Yeah.
So while the passive voice,
while the passive voice, the subject of the sentence receives the action instead of performing it.
Yes.
The structure of a passive voice sentence is typically object, verb, then subject we put by before it. For example, the letter was written by Kate. It can be used to be the passive voice, I mean, to be more indirect or polite, and to make the object of the sentence more important.
Here the sentence tells us what happened to the subject,
to the
not
letter.
what the subject did.
Yeah.
So it is passive. The letter was written.
The letter can't write.
Yes, of course. So here, simply speaking, we can distinguish simply between the active and the passive when we know whether the subject is the doer of the action or receives the action. I think it's very clear. Now, we can go on, Ms. Majid, to talk about what? I think we have an exercise. Do we have an exercise, Ms. Wala?
No.
I think here you're talking about the mechanism of how we can change from active into passive.
If the students asked to change the sentence from the active to the passive tense, we see here in the form we have the subject plus verb plus object in the active form. But when we want to change this sentence into the passive voice, we have to move the object to become the subject, the new subject of the sentence. Then we have the tense, the verb with whatever it would be. And after that we use by and add the subject of the active sentence after it. This is the way how we change the sentence from active to passive voice.
To make passive, there are 3 steps. Again, we use the object as a subject. This is step number 1. Step number 2, we use verb to be. We use verb to be again in the same tense as the active verb. In the same tense as the active verb. If the active verb is present simple, we use verb to be in the present simple. If it is past simple, we use verb to be in the past simple. Present perfect, we use verb to be in the present perfect, and so on.
And so.
Step number 3, we use the past participle of the active verb. The past participle, which is the third form of the verb. Then, if we want to mention the doer of the action in the passive, it must be preceded by the word by. By so and so, okay? But it is often not mentioned. When we feel that, when should we mention, I mean, the doer of the action in the passive, I think when we feel that the information is not complete, we mention it. When we feel that it is important, we mention it. Sometimes we don't know the doer. For example, my car was stolen. I don't know who stole my car, so I can't say my car was. It's okay if I know the person
We can add the
okay.
information.
So we usually don't know.
We don't know
okay.
who's the
So
doer.
we don't usually mention the doer in these cases. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But when we know the doer, and we feel that the information is important, we mention it. It's okay. When it is obvious or clear, there is no need to mention it. For example, Ahmed was arrested yesterday. Of course, there is no need to say by the police because it is clear, right? So that's it, everything about the 3 steps of how to make passive. Now, we have another information maybe. Miss Wala,
Yeah,
please.
the structure of passive voice. The passive voice is quite easy to make. Just we have to use the correct form of the verb be. Let's have some tenses. For example, present simple passive. In the present simple passive form, the auxiliary verb be is used in the present tense. I mean is, am, or are, followed by the past participle of the main verb. For example, lots of bridges are built every year. Past simple passive, in this tense, the auxiliary verb be is used in the past tense. I mean was or were, followed by the past participle of the main verb. For example, lots of bridges were built last year. In present continuous passive form, the auxiliary verb be is used in the present tense, followed by being and the past participle of the main verb. For example, lots of bridges are being built nowadays. The last tense here, past continuous passive, the form of it is the auxiliary verb be in the past, was or were, followed by being and the past participle of the main verb. For example, lots of bridges were being built.
Last year, for example,
Yeah,
or last
yesterday,
month, or 5 years ago, okay, or in the past. Yes, thank you very much.
For the present perfect passive, we also use have or has plus the verb been plus the past participle of the main verb. Example, lots of bridges have been built this year. For the past perfect passive, we use had plus been plus the verb, the past participle of the main verb. Example, lots of bridges had been built. For the future simple passive, we use will plus the verb to be built. Yani verb 3.
It
The
means
past
be in
participle
the
of verb
future.
3.
When we want to use be in the future, as I
When?
said, will be.
As it is.
right?
Yes.
It is will be.
The
Yes.
example, lots of bridges will be built next year.
Good. Next one.
Yeah, here we have an exercise.
Okay.
Yeah, we have to choose if the sentence is active or passive. First, we have to identify whether the subject performs the action or receives it. The first sentence, the new computer system now. We have 4 choices: installs, is being installed, or is installing. The correct answer is being installed, which is in the present continuous passive tense. It indicates that the computer system is now in the process of being installed by someone. The second one, my office, into when I was on holiday. We have 4 choices: has broken, was broken, or broke. The correct answer is option C, was broken. This is in the past simple passive, indicating that something happened to the office in the past and someone else did the action. The last one, the painting from the gallery recently. We have was stealing, had stolen, has been stolen. The correct answer is the option D, has been stolen. This is in the present perfect passive tense, indicating the action of stealing happened at unspecific time before now, and the effect is still in the present. In this case, it means that the painting was stolen and it's still stolen.
Okay. Thank you very much.
For number 5, the new bridge next month will complete, completes, was completed, will be completed. Here we have 2 tenses in the active, will complete and completes, and we know that the bridge can't do this. It's not the doer, so we have to choose between was completed or will be completed. We depend on next month. We see that this is a future tense, so it's in the passive. The correct choice will be completed. Number 5, while the bridge was being built, was building, built, had built, a worker hurt himself. The correct answer here was being built. And for number 6, the dinner, by the time we came home. The dinner had cooked, the dinner had been cooked, the dinner is cooked, the dinner was cooked. By the time we came here, sure, the correct answer had been cooked. B.
Good, thank you. Now, that's everything, dear students, about the passive, with some exercises, of course. Now, we can go on to unit 4, I think, which is the causative. In this unit, we have, in grammar, of course, we have the causative. What is the meaning of causative? What do we mean by causative? How can we form causative, etc. With some exercise, of course. Miss Wala, the floor is yours.
First, we have to differentiate between 3 structures. We have 3 sentences here. My father mended the car himself. It's an active sentence. My father is the doer of the action. The sentence tells us what the subject did. The second one, the car was mended by my father. It's a passive sentence. My father is the doer of the action. The sentence tells us what happened to the subject. And the last one, my father had the car mended. It's a causative sentence that we will explain it now. My father asked someone else to mend the car, but he didn't do the action himself. Maybe he asked someone to do it for him.
Okay. Miss Wala, you're trying to tell the students something, which is the following. We can write the sentence in English in 3 different structures. We can use the sentence or write the sentence in the active. The first example, my father mended the car himself. Here the sentence is active. The structure is active. The second one, which, what do we mean by active? We mean that the doer, the subject is the doer of the action. Number 2, the car was mended by my father. This is a passive structure or form. Here the sentence is telling us what happened to the subject. So the subject receives the action, not sends the action. And the last structure, which is called causative, what do we mean by this? My father had the car mended. Here again, the subject is not the doer of the action. Someone else did the action for him. It means that my father asked someone to mend the car for him. He is not the doer. He is not the mender of the car. Good. So we have active, passive, and causative. Okay, next one, please.
We'll talk about the form of the causative. We form the causative by using the verb have or get. Both are used in the causative, plus the object, plus the past participle. Example, I had my computer fixed by a programmer. Here, me, caused the action to happen. Had is the causative verb. Fixed, the action. And the programmer, the agent that performed the action. This is the form of the causative sentence.
Good. So to have something done by someone else, Ms. Majid. To have your car repaired, you take it to a technician. To have your house cleaned, you have to ask someone to clean the house for you. You have to bring a cleaner. Okay? You want to cut your hair, so to have your hair cut, I go to the barber. Right? You go somewhere else, okay? But I'm talking about myself now. So that's it. To have something done by someone else. This is the causative. This
We need the agent.
Yes.
To perform the action.
Let's talk about the use, Miss Wala.
Have something done or get something done are both used to refer to actions which are done for the subject rather than by the subject. Maybe he bid, asked, or persuaded someone to do the action instead of him. For example, I don't know how to repair cars, so I'm having mine repaired at the garage.
Okay.
We also use the causative sentence. We have something done. We used have something done to talk about something that happens to someone, usually something unpleasant and outside their control. Example, I stood so close to the fire that I got my legs burnt. So getting my legs burnt is something unpleasant, and this is out of my control. So that's why we use the causative sentence here.
Good. Thank you. Next one.
Yeah, the next one we have the structure of some tenses in the causative form. Let's start with the present simple. The hairdresser cuts Rena's hair about twice a year. If we want to make it as a causative sentence, we have to put Rena first, then it's present simple. We have to put the causative verb in the present simple, has or gets. Has is more formal than get. After that, we have to put the object, her hair, then the past participle of the main verb, it's cut, twice a year. We can put the object, the subject here by using by the hairdresser. The second one, yesterday the optician checked my mother's eyes. Here it's in the past simple. If we want to make it as a causative sentence, we have to put the subject first, my mother. After that, we have to put the causative verb in the past simple, had or got. After that, the object, her eyes, then the past participle of the main verb, it's checked by the optician. The last one, the mechanic is changing the oil in my car. Here it's in the present continuous. If you want to make it as a causative sentence, we have to put the subject verb, I. After that, we have to put the causative verb in the form of a present continuous. I am having or getting. The object is the oil. After that, the past participle of the main verb is changed, and the complement of the sentence. So, in my car, by the mechanic.
Okay.
Here we have some exercises, and you have to deal with them. Choose the correct answer. Number 1, I planted the trees in our garden myself. So we have to choose now. I don't have them planted. I didn't have them planted. I had them planted. I had planted them. For sure, because I planted the trees in our garden myself. So the correct answer, I didn't have them planted.
It
No
means
one
that I
planted them
didn't
for
cause
me.
someone
To do the
Yes.
to
action.
plant them.
No one planted them for me.
Yes.
I didn't have them planted. For number 2, a decorator has repaired our house. We, A, have it repaired. B, have repaired it. C, haven't had it repaired. D, have had it repaired. For sure, the correct answer, he have had it repaired, depending on the first sentence. A decorator has repaired our house.
Thank you.
Yeah. Number 3, Sarah doesn't tidy the room herself. She had it tidied, has it tidied, has tidied it, or doesn't have it tidied. The correct answer here is has it tidied, because Sarah arranges for someone else to tidy the room for her. She doesn't do it by herself. The last one, Ali's driving license was taken away by the police. Here it's unpleasant action that happened to Ali. We have 4 choices: is having it taken, has it taken, had it taken, or had taken it. The correct answer is had it taken, because Ali didn't take his license away by himself, but the police took it away from him.
Good. Okay, now that's everything in Unit 4. Dear students, now we can go on to Unit 5. In Unit 5, as you know, we have the relative pronouns. The relative pronouns
Relative clauses.
are known to all the students because they have studied them many years ago. Before, they have studied these relative pronouns before, in grade 9, in grade 8 maybe, in grade 10. They know about them, but now we are trying to, let's say, revise them in the baccalaureate, maybe with more details. Let's start to talk about them. Miss Majid, please.
Yes. For the relative clauses, the relative clause gives us more information about what a noun in a main clause. For example, John is the man who has won the prize. So, who has won the prize? This is the relative clause. And who refers here to the noun man. So, in this sentence, we have a relative clause that adds more information about the man. The relative clause starts usually with the pronouns, relative pronouns, such as who, that, whom, which, etc. And these pronouns are used to qualify the noun.
Yes. Thank you. To say who exactly I'm talking about, or what exactly I'm talking
To
about.
identify.
Which thing, or what, or whose thing, or who I'm talking about. Now, the defining clauses.
Yeah, we have actually we have two types of relative clauses. We have defining clauses and non-defining clauses. Let's start with defining clauses. They give essential information. Their purpose is to define which specific person we're talking about or referring to. Without them, the meaning will be incomplete. So they are so necessary in the sentence. They never go between commas, and we can use all the relative pronouns in this type. While non-defining clauses, they give extra or additional information. We can remove them without changing the meaning. They are always separated from the rest of the sentence by using commas. We have to focus here that the relative pronoun that can't be used in this type.
Because sometimes we can replace who or which
With that.
with that.
Yeah.
But that is used or done in
Defining.
defining clauses,
Only
not
defining.
in non-defining
Non-defining.
clauses. Of course, we are going to give examples. Let's try to give the students some examples. Yes, please.
We'll start with the relative pronoun who. Who is used to talk about people. It can be the subject or the object of the relative clause. So we can use who instead of the subject or instead of the object of the relative clause. In defining relative clauses, it can be always replaced by that. So we can use that instead of who only in the defining relative clauses.
For example,
Mary, who arrived late at the party, is my cousin.
can we replace who here with that?
No, because it's a non-defining clause.
That arrived late at the party, I don't think we can replace
Yeah, because
it, because
non-defining.
here we have commas, and
have
it's very
commas.
clear that it is a non-defining clause. I mean, the information here is not giving us, let's say,
Not essential. It's extra
essential information about Mary. We are just adding information about Mary. So this clause is a non-defining clause. So here we cannot replace who with that.
Yes.
Now, again, yes, please.
Yeah. Whom, it's used to talk about people. It's more formal than who. It's always the object of the relative clause. It always has a subject afterwards. So this is the difference between them. In defining relative clauses, it can also be replaced by that. For example, Mary is the girl who I told you about yesterday. Here we can replace whom with that because it's a defining clause.
For example, Mary is the girl whom I told you about yesterday. Here the information is essential.
Yeah, necessary.
I'm not talking about Mary who, let's say, won the prize, or Mary who is in our, let's say, class at school. I'm talking about Mary whom I told you about yesterday, about another Mary. Okay, so here it is an essential information, and this clause is a defining clause. Here, I think we can replace home with that, right? Mary is the girl that I told you about. We can use it.
for
Yes.
sure.
What else?
Which. The relative pronoun which is used to talk about things or places. It can be the subject or the object of the relative clause. In defining relative clauses, it can be always replaced by that. Example, that car which she bought last month is very expensive. That is the village in which I grew up. This is for which.
Yeah.
Here, again, I have to add something. The clause is very clear that it is a non-defining clause, which here cannot be replaced with that or by that, right? I can't use that instead of which here. That car that she bought, no.
No.
Which she bought. In the last example, I mean, that is the village in which I grew up. Here, because we have in, we have to use which. When we don't have in,
Where?
we use where. That is the village where I grew up, or
To
in which
indicate the
I
place.
grew up. Yes.
Yes. That it only appears in defining relative clauses, as we mentioned before. It may substitute who, whom, and which. For example, Jack is the man that won the first prize.
Good.
Now we'll start to talk about whose, a relative pronoun whose. It is used to talk about possession. It cannot be substituted by any pronouns. It is always followed by whatever is possessed. Example, that is the boy whose mother is a doctor.
Good.
So here we have mother, the noun
We have
that
a
always
position
followed by
here.
the whose.
Yes,
So
yes,
to indicate possession.
Yes.
Yeah. Where it's used to talk about places when they aren't the subject nor the object of the relative clause. For example, that is the museum where I went last month.
Good.
When it is used to talk about times, when they are not the subject nor the object of the relative clause. May is the month when flowers bloom.
Here, time.
Yes, indicate time when flowers bloom.
Now we have an exercise.
Yeah, we have an
Exercise.
exercise. We have to choose the correct relative pronoun. The first one, a photocopier is a machine, makes copies of documents. This sentence refers to the relative clause here refers to a machine, which is a thing. So the correct answer is which. The second one, this isn't the building. We're talking about place here, so the correct answer is where the bus stopped. Number 3, I met the author. Book is on the bestseller list. The sentence implied position and refers to the author's book, so the answer is whose.
It means that his book is on
Yeah.
the bestseller list, so we use whose, yes.
Yeah, the last one, this is the city John was born in. Here we have a place, but we have the preposition in. We cannot use where. The correct answer here is which.
Thank you very much. Okay, go on.
Now we'll go to pronunciation.
Pronunciation, which is another skill.
Yes.
Now we have finished everything in grammar for the 6 units, from unit 1 to unit 6. Now we can talk about pronunciation, okay?
And we'll start with homophones. Homophones are words which share the same pronunciation but have different meanings and spelling. Example, write, R-I-G-H-T versus write, W-R-I-T-E. Here we have different spelling, but we have different meanings.
Do we have audio
but
here?
the same pronunciation.
No. Let's listen to it. I'm sorry. Again.
Right.
Okay. What else?
Here we have other examples of homophones. We have a flour versus flour. The first one, it's raw grains ground into powder, and the second one, it's a plant's plume. We have also sun, the same pronunciation. The first one is a male child, while the second one is the star that lights the earth. The third one here and here. The first one, it's a verb to perceive sound, and the second one here indicate a position or a location. The last one, break. The first one, it's a noun. It means a device of slowing or stopping a machine, and the second one, it's a verb.
We know that. Okay, thank you. Next one, please, Miss Majid.
We have an exercise, and we have to choose. If you illegal goods, you will end up in a prison. The correct choice, if you sell, S-E-L-L, the correct choice A. If you sell illegal goods, you will end up in a cell, prison, cell, C-E-L-L. Number 2, the knight, K-N-I-G-H-T, which is in the choice number C. The knight is on his way to the castle, but traveling at night is very dangerous. The correct answer, C.
Now we have another, let's say, skill in pronunciation, which is the voiced and the voiceless sounds. Here, what are voice sounds and what are voiceless sounds, Miss Wala, please?
Yeah, voiced and voiceless sounds are terms used to describe how we produce certain consonant sounds in speech. Voice sounds are made when the vocal cords vibrate.
When you produce the sound,
when
our vocal cords vibrate, we call them voice sounds. If our vocal cords don't vibrate when we produce the sound, it is called a voiceless sound. What are voice sounds and what are they? Let's try to mention them one by one, please.
Yeah, the first one, B, like, bat, D, dot, G, gap, V, vine, the, this, Z, zoo, J, jam, male, N, nail, N, sing, la, let, ra, root, wa, wet, ya, yard. All of them.
And the voiceless?
Yeah, the voiceless, P, like pat, T, tall, K, cab, F, fine, Th, thin, so, short, ha, hot, and cha, chip.
Good. Let's remind the students that all vowels are considered voiced sounds. All the vowels are voiced sounds. Okay, now what else, Ms.
We have an
Majid?
exercise. Which word ends with a voiced sound? Laugh, sick, answer, path. The correct answer, C. Which word has the voiceless final sound? Ash, show, run, sing.
Here,
it is A.
It is a question. Since it is a question, it must it must end with a let's say question mark. Which word ends with a voice sound? In the exam, we usually say the word that ends or which ends with a voice sound is, and they have a space. The students have a space. Then they have 4 choices. It's the same, okay. So here it is answer, right? Next one, number 2.
Number 2, ash. It
Ash.
is a voiceless sound.
Which word has a voiceless final sound? The final sound, voiceless, ash. Yes, that's right. What else? ED pronunciation, Ms. Wala, please.
Yeah, the ED pronunciation depends on the final sound of the main verb, of the base form of the main verb. We have 3 different pronunciation, T, D, or id. The first one, T sound. We pronounce it ED like T sound if the verb ends in voiceless sounds, such as the sound of this consonant, S, CH, or SH, K, P, or F. The ED ending is pronounced as T, for example, served or helped.
Any sound except these sounds in at the beginning, we pronounce the ED as D, except
Except
when the verb ends with T,
T
or
or
D,
D.
we pronounce it id.
Id.
So we have 3 sounds for the ed. Why do we add ed? We add ed to the verb to make it past.
past.
You know that. All irregular verbs take ed in the past. So this ed can be pronounced or can have 3 sounds. T or D or id. So when do we use, or let's say, when do we say it or pronounce it as T? When the verb ends with S, sha, cha, ke,
Voiceless
t,
sounds.
and fe.
They
The
are.
voiceless sounds.
Voiceless sound.
All other sounds we pronounce it D.
D.
That's it, except D
T
or
or
T.
T.
That's it. Now we have an exercise.
Which verb ends in T sound? Wanted, improved, finished, phoned. It's obvious that it's finished. Which verb ends in D sound? Recorded, called, fixed, served, called.
Thank you very much. Religion, now there is no need to use it because we don't have time to mention it now because we have only 3 minutes maybe, so it needs more time. Everyday English, let's go on to talk about everyday English. The floor is yours.
Yeah. We have to choose the correct response. The first one, I'm so frightened that I'm not going to pass a driving test. What should I do? I'll take word for it. Why don't you practice more? I never mind. I'm sorry about what happened. The correct answer here is, why don't you practice more?
Good.
Here we're giving advice to him. I won a scholarship to Britain. We have, oh, you mustn't let this depress you. I'm sorry about what happened. Very well done. Keep it up. I'm sure this won't happen again. If I say I won, it's a good thing. So the correct answer is
Very
well done. Keep it up. The last one, my perfect house would be high in the mountains. We have also 4 choices. Let me read from.
Don't you think
Yeah.
you'd feel isolated?
Isolated.
Where do you live?
Yeah.
Why don't you like mountains?
And
Which season do you prefer?
Which season do you prefer? I
The
think
correct answer A. Don't you
the first
think
choice
Yeah.
you would
is
feel
the most suitable one.
isolated? Don't you
Yes.
think you feel isolated?
Yes.
For number 4, do you think AI will control the world? I haven't made my mind yet. I'm not sure about that. I'll take word for it. You deserve the best praise. The correct answer, I'm not sure about that. Number 5, my room in the hotel isn't clean. A, complaint is not allowed. B, you deserve it. I'm sorry about that. I assure you it won't happen again. D, I haven't made my mind yet. The correct answer, C.
Yes.
Number 6, you are so clever knowing everything about technology. Do you expect me to believe it? You are embarrassing me. I haven't made my mind yet. I'm proud of it. The correct answer is B.
Okay, that's everything. Thank you very much. Well, dear students, time is over. At the end of this seminar, let me, dear students, dear colleagues, thank my colleagues, Miss Majid Al-Rifai, an English supervisor from Kuwait Directorate.
welcome.
Thank you very much for your participation.
Thanks for you.
Miss Wala Safir, an English supervisor from Damascus Countryside Directorate. Thank you very much. Dear students, till we meet in other seminars, we wish you all the best and goodbye. Thank you.